Hi, my name is Paul Rushton. I'm with the Northeast Florida Woodturners Association, and we're here at the Jacksonville Beach Woodcraft today. I'm going to demonstrate how to build a peppermill, such as this one. A little shorter, but the same basic design. The mechanism that I'll be demonstrating with today is called a crush grind mechanism, and it's this sort of a deal right here. They come in two sizes. This is the 10.6 inch long version. There's also a 7.6 inch long version. Those are the two that are available in the United States. One of these costs about $15 to $20 or so if you shop around for it. I did find a source in Canada. If you hunt the internet, you can find a source in Canada that makes them about 20 inches long. These shafts are pentagonal in shape, so it's not like you can go down to the store or to Home Depot and buy one of these shafts and make it any length you want. Crush Grind's kind of got a captive market with these 5-sided shafts that they're making. So I'm going to describe the process that we're going to go through. You have to fully embed the mechanism inside the mill. So first order with making any kind of mill is to bore the blank, or mark the blank for the bottom and the top, part it off, and then bore the blank to receive the mechanism. So this is the boring approach for a crush grind mill mechanism. Here's a picture of the blank shown with the mechanism inserted. You can see the mechanism is fully inserted into the blank with a little gap at the bottom to keep the mechanism off the table, and a place in the top and the cap of the mechanism to hold the top. This comes into two parts. This is the part that slides off. The top part is got a little flange on it at the bottom that sits just inside the top of the bottom blank to keep it in proper alignment. So drilling is unique to every mechanism. There's all kinds of different mechanisms on the market. Here in the store, I picked this up out in the store just now. This is the crush grind mechanism. It's $17.99. And they also have a salt mill turning kit that you can make a salt turning grinder. Pretty cool, huh? I have an old mechanism. This is I don't even know the brand name, but it's got a lot of metal parts. I made one of these mills several years ago. It has a square shaft, so you could make it any length that you wanted to. So the mechanism, just to make it clear, has to fit fully inside the body of the mill, and it's going to be in there something like that. This mechanism is the 10.6 inch long mechanism, and it fits in there just like so. And you can see this top part is where it goes inside the cap, and when you put the cap on, it slides down on there just like that, with the flange just inside the top of the bottom of the mill. Like I was saying, that may have been a little confusing. But that's to hold it in proper alignment so it doesn't slide around. If it was above, then it would wobble. So you got to get the flange to fit just inside the top of the mill. And that's how it goes together. So the first part is going to be creating the blank, which I have brought two blanks today. Just get yourself a 3x3 piece of wood of whatever material of your choice, and I made this round at home so I don't have to bore you with making a square thing round. There's all kinds of woods that you can use to make mills. I picked these 3 pieces of wood off the shelf out here in the store a few minutes ago. This one is canary wood. Would make a very beautiful mill, I think. This one is Pau Rosa, $40. It's heavy. I bet that would be a beautiful mill. This one is Purple Heart, $25. I bet that would be a beautiful mill. I made several mills myself out of various woods. So these are 5 mills that I made. The one on the far left and the second from the right are olive wood, which is one of my favorites. I found it turned like butter, and I thought these 2 mills were very beautiful. This one had a little crack in it, which the one second from the right had a little crack in it, which I filled with turquoise. Second from the left is Cocobolo. The center one is rosewood, and the one on the far right is Panga Panga, which is a wood that's from the east coast of South Africa, a relative of Wangi. But you can make mills out of whatever kind of wood you want. You can also see there's a wide variety of possible designs. Design is up to you, of course, and I like having a waist on the bottom of the mill, something I can grab my hand onto. And I like having a round top on the mill that's not flat on the top. I find this kind of squashed sphere sort of top, about 1 3/4 inches in diameter, feels nice in my hand. And that's the kind of mill I feel most comfortable with and that I like the most, is this sort of a design. When I hold the mill and use it, I do it like this. My wife holds it, she does it like this. So there's different strokes for different folks. But when you're thinking about building a mill, you might just want to take these sort of design considerations into account. To begin with, we take our blank and mark it as shown in this drawing here. Ignore these dimensions. However long a mill you want to make, you pick a size for the top part and pick a size for the bottom part. I would leave at least 1 3/4 inches, 2 inches for this top part. 2.5 inches is not bad. 2 3/4 is shown here. If your mill is longer, you might want to make this a little larger so that it stays proportional. And we need to cut tenons here and here and part it here for the top and bottom. The next step will be drilling the bottom. The big holes are in the bottom, the small hole in the top, and drilling the top out. Once we get it all drilled, then we'll turn it to the shape we desire. To aid in drilling and turning, I made these 2 plugs. This is a plug to go in the bottom, and here are the general dimensions. And what you do is you build this to fit the bottom of your mill after you've drilled it, and you sneak up on it like you're making a lid for a box. Sneak up on it until it's a snug fit. You don't want it too tight because you've got to get the mill back off of it. And this plug here is to allow you to turn the top part easily. Let me show you what those look like in reality. So here's a couple of crush grind Peppermill mechanism bottom plugs that I've made over time. Another one. They're pretty easy to make. You just chuck up a piece of scrap wood that's 2 inches across and you turn it to fit your mill after you make it. Here's the top plug. These all go in a 4-jaw chuck so that you can hold the mill top or bottom in place while you turn it. Now we have just a blank piece of wood ready to become a peppermill. Put it in the lathe so that I can spin it. I already had this mounted one time when I turned the square into round. This is a piece of maple. So what we got to do is mark it where the top and the bottom are going to be. And for this mill, I'm going to say this is the bottom. I'll mark it about 6 5/8 or so. I'm going to put a flange on it about yay wide. I'm going to part it right here. So this is where I'm going to separate it. I'm going to make another 2.5 inches for a top. I'll just keep the whole thing. So I'll put another flange on the top up here. So 2 flanges. As shown in this picture. And part it here. So I'm going to make a flange here, and that'll allow me to hold the bottom while I'm boring it, and that'll allow me to hold the top while I'm boring it. I'm going to bore the bottom holes. I'm going to bore 3 holes from the bottom here first. I'm going to turn it around and drill a hole into the top of the bottom. Then I'm going to mount this piece and drill a hole into the bottom of the top. There's a lot of bottoms and tops to keep track of. So precision here is not necessary. There's plenty of wood to so I have this small skew that I like to use to make these flanges. I have a Vicmark scroll chuck, and it takes a dovetailed tenon. So I found that if I hold this skew at just about straight on, it gives it's perfect fit for my dovetail. So mask on, and I cut 2 tenons. First, now you notice I cut these tenons pretty large, and I'm going to leave them this size. I know it's not ideal for a scroll chuck because the jaws have to be open wider, but all I'm going to be doing is drilling holes in it. I'm not going to be turning it at high speed or doing fancy stuff. So, because I want to preserve this wood as part of the mill. So next step is to part it off. My preferred approach is to go part way with a parting tool such as this, and then cut it on the bandsaw. I don't, cutting through 3-inch hard maple with a parting tool I've always found it a little bit problematic. The tool gets hot and it pinches and one thing after another. So I get it part way through, and then I cut it off with a bandsaw. Back to that in a minute. Take it off at the moment. I'm going to go bandsaw it into 2 pieces. I'll be right back. And I'm well aware that trying to bandsaw something round can be dangerous. So I'm going to keep a firm grip on this while I put it into the bandsaw. Good. To drill, we need 5 different size drill bits. And they are, as shown in the previous drawing, 1 3/4 at the bottom, 5/8 inch deep, 1 9/16 across. Next, 1 1/2 inch plus the 5/8 into the blank, and then 1 1/8 up until about an inch before the top, and then we drill down from the top 1 1/16 to meet this hole in the bottom. Then we flip it around and drill the top 15/16 inch diameter, about 1 7/16 inch deep. So that's all we're going to do now. It goes pretty quick. This is a 1 3/4 Forstner bit. And this is a bit extender that I bought at Woodcraft. This is a 4-inch bit extender with a 3/8 inch shaft diameter. So all these shafts are 3/8 inch diameter except for the 1 1/16 inch shaft. This is a 4-inch extender, and they also sell one that's about 10 inches long. So if you want to build a 12-inch mill, you're going to need the longer one of these to get the bit all the way fully inserted through the blank. I'm going to put all this over here for the moment, and we'll start with this 1 3/4 inch hole. It's just backwards for my lathe. So I know from experience that 5/8 inch deep is right at the point of where this black powder coating is on the top of this drill bit. So pretty slow. Cool a little bit. So that's the end of that. Take this one off. 1 9/16. And I have previously marked this bit right here. This should be 1 1/2, was it? 1 1/2 plus 5/8. So that's going to be 2 1/8 from this cutting edge right here. So we need to go into the blank until that particular little black mark disappears. So again, pretty slow. Just feed the drill bit in. I hold on to this chuck so it doesn't rotate. They have a tendency to rotate because all it's holding it in here is a Morse taper. chips out, clear the chips a little bit. This carbide bit is a pretty tough customer, I have found. Clear the chips mostly so I can see my mark. And that's the end of that drilling operation. Next is 1 1/8 inch hole to within an inch of going all the way through. I think I'll just go ahead and put the bit extender on it now because I don't think it's going to go very far without it. There's a couple of Allen wrenches, Allen screws on here, set screws to grab the shaft of the drill bit. You do have to use a 3/8 inch shaft drill bit for this to work. And I snuck those up pretty tight because I do not want it coming loose. And we'll tighten that in there. Let's do this. So we can go in all the way to there, which is going to put that right in there. So we'll just go as far as we can with this and not worry about it. Again, pretty slow. Forstner bits tend to overheat. If you go too fast, they'll overheat, and that heating ruins them. So this Forstner bit is just steel. It's a fruited Forstner bit, and I'm pretty cautious about not overheating it, clearing the chips, give it a chance to rest, so on and so forth. You notice the drill bit's wobbling a little bit because it's slightly off center. But that doesn't matter because the hole is going to become the defining point of the center when we get to turning it. I want to get the drill bit stuck in there. I think that's about the extent of travel we're going to get out of that without the long extender. So we're finished turning that end, and I didn't cut a tenon here. I could have cut a tenon on this end too, and you might want to, but I find I'm just going to drill a 1 1/16 inch hole through the center of this thing, and I don't need the tenon. So 1 1/16 is this one here. Again, pretty slow. If you had a 1 1/16 inch, 3/8 inch shaft drill bit, you could drill all the way through from the bottom and not have to do this process from the top. But my 1 1/16 inch bit happens to have a 1/4 inch shaft, so it doesn't fit in the bit extender. So I do this process instead. Kind of a workaround, but more room for peppercorns. And there we just busted through, so now we have a hole all the way through the bottom of our mill blank, and we are going to put a hole in the top, and the drilling operation will be complete. I don't have a very large flange surface here to mount this on, so I'm careful to make sure that the jaws go under it, not on top of it. And we're going to change this for a 15/16 inch bit. Since I've done this a few times before, tell you what, I'm going to clean that surface off. I'll clean that surface off first. Move this out of the way so I don't jab my arm on it. I use this skew chisel just to kind of clean that surface off and get it square and flat. Much better. That little bump in the middle is going to go away with the drill bit. Bring this back over. And once again, I have marked with a little black mark on here where the depth is, the desired depth, which is 1 7/16 or thereabouts. And we drill a nice 15/16 inch hole in the bottom of the top. That's it. That's all there is to boring it, the Peppermill blank. And next step is shaping the mill, mounting, remounting the bottom, shaping the mill to your desired shape, and then gluing the mechanism parts into the blanks and sanding and finishing before you do that, preferably. I'm not going to sand and finish today. Those are the basic steps for making a mill. I think that's it, unless there's questions or anything. I'm going to slide the plug into the bottom of the mill. It's a pretty good snug fit. I'm going to chuck it up in my scroll chuck here. Oh, that slides nice on there. And I use this little conical piece of aluminum to just create a round shape that I can stick in the top end of the mill to hold it steady while I'm turning it. Okay. So here's a design I decided to make today, is this profile right here. So you can freehand draw your profile however you like, and then turn it. And I didn't, since it's a fairly short mill, I didn't do a whole lot of complexity in here. Simpler is better. I've done them more complex, and I find that I prefer just the aesthetic of the plain, simple looking mills. So step one is our mill is mounted now. Just to mark some, this is the mill bottom, this is the bottom end, this is the top end. So I'm just going to mark a place where I'm going to insert that. So this is where I'm going to put this little cut in right here, and we'll have a little rise here, a sort of a bead, and then a nice concave shape going up toward the top. I'd like to make the inflection point of this concave shape a little higher than the center line, so I'll try for that. Also notice we cut back in right here so that the top and the bottom will fit together, and something along those lines. This wood I have here today is some kind of hard maple. So let's start by cutting this little groove right here. And safety first always. It may come back and clean that up a little bit more later. This flange, or this tenon on the top of the mill becomes part of the mill. So that's not waste wood. I'm going to keep that flange as part of the mill. So the top part of the mill has to get smaller than that flange. Lower the tool rest just a little bit. Let's take a look at that. Okay, just some refinements left, I think. Got to remember, there's a 1 1/8 inch hole drilled in the center of that, and you definitely want to leave some margin around that. So we're at 1 7/8 here. If we can go a little farther and make this shape look a little more user-friendly. So I'm going to just take some more off. Clean up this little cove and beads here. I'm liking the way that looks. Excuse me. Get a pointier spindle gouge. There's a name for this in there. What's it called? Spindle gouge. Detail gouge, thank you. Perfect. I have sharpened, I got a nice wire edge on my negative rake scraper. This is pretty rough right here at the moment. See if I can smooth it up a little bit. This hard walnut, or this hard maple is, excuse me, when I was turning the blank round, it had a tendency to chip a little bit, and it's pretty furry right now. So see if I can use my negative rake scraper here to smooth it a little bit. That's far better. So at this point, I would sand it some, which I'm not going to bore you all with here in the store. So that's basically the bottom all done. And we disconnect this from I don't want to jam my hand into that sharp point, so I'm going to take that out of the way. And we've got to get this off of here. How do we lock this spindle? There it is. And so there's our bottom of our mill all turned and ready for sanding and finishing. The next step will be to turn the top. So we're going to put this plug, this is the top, all drilled with a 15/16 inch hole and a 15/16 inch plug. So we're going to substitute this plug for the plug for the top. Take this one off. Put this one on. And again, I will bring up the tailstock because I can. Don't need the cone center anymore. All I need to do is just hold this in place. And there's plenty of material here that this point won't be shown in the top when it's finished. So we're all nice and snug here, ready to turn the top of our mill. And I like the top to be about 1 3/4 inches tall, or a little taller. It seems to be a nice shape and a nice size to fit a person's hand. So at present it is 2 3/8 tall, so we got quite a good bit of material to remove, and it's 2 7/8 across, so we got quite a bit of material to remove. There we go. Now you notice that the bottom of the top is pretty close to these chuck jaws, so it might be advisable to make this plug a little, the tenon that you're holding the plug with, a little taller. This one's a bit on the short side, and I'm going to have to work pretty close to these chuck jaws, so I will be careful. So let's see how we're doing here. All right, getting there. I like this to be about 2 inches across, and it's presently 2 1/8. So we're pretty close to the final dimension on there. I'm going to use this detail gouge to get in there and clean up the bottom. Okay, I like the way that looks. I'm not necessarily trying for symmetrical here. Just want a nice flattened sphere sort of shape that fits in your hand nicely. One of the things I like about these crush grind mechanisms is the hardware is all on the inside. There's no piece of hardware or metal screw on the top or anything like that. So and I found the top to be harder to turn than the bottom because you're trying to get the profile exactly right and smooth, and there's a bit of attention to detail required to get the top exactly perfectly smooth and rounded and no flat spots. And I am going to take the tailstock away and carefully turn the rest of the top to its final shape. See, I'm about 1 5/8 here, so 1 3/4, just right. 1 5/8, 1 3/4, just right. So I'm going to declare success on that, and I'm going to take the tailstock away. And it's very well secured by just holding that plug. The plug that it's stuck onto, it's very well secured, so I feel very comfortable doing this. Rotate this around to get a little closer. And remove this pip. Oh, I need to lower it a tiny bit. Got a spindle gouge now, just a standard spindle gouge. And some people might like to leave a little detail like this on the top and as a decorative item, but I like them smooth and round. In addition to the aesthetics, you need to consider the feel of it. Come on. Yow! That was a boo-boo. See what we got. A little cut in there. See how we recover from a slip and a catch like that. Try not to do another one, of course. But appears to be enough material here to that looks pretty good. A little sanding would clean up. Oh, still got a little part of the catch. Now it's almost all gone. A little bit of sanding will take that out, and I'm not going to continue to work on it. Let's pull it off, and at this point I would sand it all, and the next step is going to be to epoxy the mechanism into the mill. So that's how it's going to look when it's finished. Not too bad. I would probably take a little more care to get this face diameter and this face diameter the same. They're slightly off right now. If I was doing this for show or to give to somebody, I would take the time to get those two surfaces the same diameter. But for the demo, I think I don't need to bore you with that. We'll move on to the next step and show you how I glue the mechanism into the Peppermill. Let me take this out of here. And I have this one here. There it is. So this is the point at which we've got to trim this shaft for our mill. It's a brand new one. It's kind of stiff. So that's how the mill top should mate with the bottom. The mechanism fits fully inside, and as you can see, this shaft is a little too long for this mill. So what I do is I get a crayon of some sort and I mark it right about there and cut it off with a hacksaw. And you're going to want to repeat or duplicate this rounded over part that you see here. I just take that to a grinding wheel and hold it against the grinder until it's round. When you put the top back on the mill, you want the mill, this part, to be on a flat surface, not a rounded surface. So that's why you got to leave just a little bit of margin here, and that makes the overall hole in the cap need to be a little taller. It needs to be about yay, and you can measure that yourself. It's about 1 1/4, 1 3/8 gives you a little room for error. So this is going to be about 1 3/8 from the top of the bottom right here. Just cut that off with a hacksaw and round over the top of it slightly with a grinder. So here's one I already cut off to fit this mill body. Thank you. And we're going to glue that in there just like so, so it fits about like that. So the glue I like to use is an epoxy. I use this I've got this 15-minute epoxy that we use to create some adhesive to hold the mechanism into the body of the mill. I put some gloves on when I handle this stuff. And this epoxy says equal parts of part A and B. Mixed up some epoxy now, and I just use it to get a good gob of it around here. I don't ever want this coming out of the body of the mill. This isn't going to show. Just get plenty of it on here. And in she goes. There's a little bit, just clean that off of there a little bit. Came out. And we are, just set that aside on a bench dog hole and do the same in the top. I get plenty of goo on here. Don't try to keep it off that flange there, so you can use a paper towel to wipe off any excess, but if we can avoid it, that would be preferred. So, that in there, and in she goes. I did get a little on it outside the flange because I'm going a little quick, And you can see the idea is to get the top mounted with the flange on the outside. That's why the size of the hole is 15/16. The top fits in, but the flange doesn't. I'm going to set that aside to dry. And when it's dry, we'll have a completed Peppermill, with the exception of putting some finish on it. That this shaft ended up right in the center, but that's something to check when you glue them in. I failed to do that. You kind of want to make sure this shaft during the gluing process ends up dead center. And you've got the top and the bottom of the mill, and on she goes. Most important part, of course, is the peppercorns. So these are my favorite Telecherry peppercorns. Let's put them in there and happy grinding. These crush grind mechanisms have a small rotating knob on the bottom for the you can adjust to get coarser or finer grind of pepper. So I find it to be a very high quality mill. I like them. The mechanism is very high quality. It turns easily. It works well. Load it with your favorite Telecherry or whatever kind of peppercorns are your favorite, and enjoy your fresh pepper ground on your food. I find that I use a lot more pepper on my food, that I have a fresh ground pepper than I used to. Thank you all very much for watching.